Hey, what's going on everybody? And on today's episode we talk about rare breed rye and rare breed bourbon. Is it worth the hype? Let's find out. Run the video. Alright then folks, and welcome back to another warm and exciting episode of The Whiskey Cove. Thank you for tuning in, where we explore two of Wild Turkey's rare breed offerings and ask the question, is the whiskey worth the hype? We'll find out shortly. But before that, another shameless plug. What is our shameless plug? Well, if you are not a subscriber, we are doing a 5,000 subscriber giveaway where you can win one of 6 very exciting bottles, and that costs you absolutely nothing. You need to do 2 specific things. First, you need to be a subscriber. We will be checking, sadly. And then secondly, you need to go over to the Whiskey Cove's website. The link is in the description. Go over to the Shop All tab and then select the free giveaway and then fill out your details there. What 6 bottles are we talking about? Well, there's one more to be added to this list, but the 5 that we have so far: the Willet 4-Year Rye, Old Forester Single Barrel Strength, Weller 107 OWA, and then Early Times Bottled in Bond, the brown Foreman bottle, and then the last bottle that got added was E.H.Taylor Small Batch. So if you want to win one of these 5 bottles and then one more bottle, which will get announced when we hit 5,000, then just make sure you're paying attention to the videos, ready for that 5,000 subscriber giveaway, where then you can check to see if you're one of those 1-6 winners. So let's get these whiskey out of the way here, and then let's get on with today's video, shall we? So I've had the rare breed rye for a while here. I've only ever bought 1 bottle of it. And then I also picked up the rare breed, the regular offering of rare breed here lately. And I'll be honest, it's been about 2-3 years since I've had rare breed. So what you'll see today is going to be a very natural reaction, because I don't remember the flavor and tasting profile of regular rare breed bourbon, which is why I don't think I've ever really talked about it too much in videos, because I can't really give you folks at home a genuine recommendation, because I just don't remember too much about it. So let's get into the rare breed rye, shall we here? So the bottles are both the same. The only difference is just this has like green and gold font, where this has like more like a browny red burgundy kind of detail to it here. All the bottles are the same. The cork is exactly the same. It's funny with this bottle, you know, you look at the bottle, it's a nice bottle, you expect to pull off this cork and it to be a big old cork there, but it's the tiniest of nipples, a bit of a small hole in the top there. We are using the Whiskey Cove Space Eye tasters here. If you'd like one, go over to and check out the shop all as you're applying for the free giveaway. You will see them there for very competitive prices. So this is coming in at a smooth 112.2 proof, or 56.1% ABV. For the rye, this is a 51% rye in the mash bill. The corn is 37%, and then the malted barley is 12%. So a just barely legal rye, if you like, there. And then MSRP is around $60. I think I paid about closer to $50 at Costco. And then the age statement on this is a blend of different ages whiskey, 4, 6, and 8-year-old blend. So with that being said, let's have a little look at the whiskey in the glass here. It does look golden and copper in color here. There's small little bits of almost like dust-like particulate that could have just come off the real cork that this does have. I respect that. Not too viscous in the glass. It is, like I said, a little bit of a higher proof there, sitting at 56.1% ABV. Very inviting in the glass. Let's go in for a nose here, rare breed rye. There's definitely an atypical rye note that jumps out. And before getting this and knowing the mash bill, you might be a little bit worried about that, because it's what I like to call a bourbon drinker's rye, because it has such little rye in the mash bill. But you're definitely getting some like toasted rye notes from there, and there's definitely, to back that up, almost like a vanilla spear note there as well. Yeah, there's definitely a minty note there. Some vanilla wafer, vanilla cream, and a definite like butterscotch sweetness there as well. Not too much wood notes, can't really pick that up too much. The rye and the spearmint is definitely the star of the show here. Maybe a touch of like a cardamom or like a cinnamon type of clovey baking spice hidden in the back end there, which you'll get from a lot of Wild Turkey products there. Let's go in for a taste. So first impressions, it's quite spicy on the tongue. It really gets a hold of your tongue, grabs onto it, digs its nails in a little bit. You get almost like a mustardy, horseradish sort of burn right on the tongue there. And that's the rye spice just letting you know you are drinking a rye, which is actually quite unique. I don't get as much of a burn from other ryes with higher rye mash bill, but this one I do. And obviously that maybe the proof is playing a part there, but also a lot of that bacon spices is definitely there. And there is a very nice, that butterscotch sweetness is definitely there as well to help balance out some of that spice. It doesn't quite achieve that, and as the kind of palate, as you zip through the palate, the sweetness goes away and you are left with a little bit more spice there as well. That kind of, again, that's like almost like a green cardamom seed. You can get them in like pods, you crack them, smell them. Kind of has that. Sometimes I get that from rye, even with like rye bread. If it has seeds in it, I can pull off the seeds and kind of rub it in my hands. I get almost like a cardamom woody note, and that's kind of what I have from this. Let's go in for another taste here. Let's see if we can pick apart the finish. Mouthfeel is actually pretty good on this. It does have a bit of an oiliness, but like that's coming from the sweetness, and then that spice does take over. It is somewhat of a spice bomb, if you like, with those rye spices, and then the wild turkey spices backing that up there. And it doesn't finish so sweet. It's very dry, like a very dried oak type note there as well, like a dried oak palate that you get on like a Traeger or something. It's really hard to kind of cleanse your palate a little bit. The finish is long because of that, but it's more of like you're chasing the spice on your palate there. So with that being said, I am going to rate these and give them a value for money, like we do with most of the reviews here. So I'll be totally honest. Obviously, as you can see, I've drunk quite a lot of this rye. I haven't been overly impressed by it. Like I said, I feel like not necessarily do I feel like it's one-dimensional, but it's definitely leaning to more of a spicier, hotter rye. And I generally don't like whiskey in general like that. I prefer a balance of that sweet wood spice running through it, but I feel like this is definitely leaning more to the spicier side and a little bit more of like the heavier rye notes. There is a touch, maybe like a cereal note in there as well, but it's not like a cereal note whether you get from like a youthful whiskey. It's more of like almost lends more similar to like a wheated cereal note, which is strange because there's no wheat in this, but it's definitely there too. So value for money, I paid $50, MSRP is around 60. There are some other ryes, like a Willet 4-year rye that we have here on the lottery. That's similar priced. Less years, but it kind of drinks a little bit more aged, if I'm completely honest. It's a little bit more calmer. The one I have is like 56% ABV, so very similar to this. I probably would reach for that instead. So value for money, I'm going to give this a C, which isn't great, but it's kind of middle of the road. I think maybe it's like a one-time thing. And then score of 100, I would give this up. I'm not a big fan of this. If that wasn't already coming through in this video, I'm going to give this a 58, which is not a very high score, but it's not a bad score. It's almost a little bit higher than middle of the road. If I'm looking for something that's a little bit more proofier and has a little bit more of a spice bite, then I'll go to this bottle. And if you're sitting at home thinking, I kind of like spicy rice, then this is probably the bottle for you. And for $60, it's probably going to be a much higher of like a C value in terms of value for money. It might be like a B or an A for that matter. With that being said, we'll cleanse the palate now and we'll move into the rare breed bourbon, which is what we are all here to see. All right then folks, then let's talk about the rare breed bourbon. So this one is coming in at 58.4%, so 2.3% ABV higher than the rye, or 116.8 proof. The mash bill on this is going to be 75% corn, 13% rye, and then 12% malted barley. So 12% malted barley, 12% malted barley here, but it's obviously different because it's a rye and a bourbon. So 75% rye is quite high, so it's going to be interesting to see how much that spice comes through. MSRP is around $50. I paid just under or right at around $50, but it's probably more closer to 60 depending on where you are. Age of this one is going to be 6, 8, and 12-year blend. And I guess let's go in and see what we can find here. So just in the glass, it does look a little thicker a little bit more viscous than the rye in the glass. I'm not comparing the two, I'm just, it's easy to explain that against the one we've already done here. Color is a little lighter than the rye, which again is expected. More like yellowy, like again, more straw color, if you like. And let's go in for a nose here. A lot more wood notes right off the bat. Yes, it does have a blend of 6 to 8 and 12 year bourbon compared to the rye, which was 4, 6 and 8. So you're definitely going to get more wood, but it's much more pronounced here. Maybe like a fig, raisin, dried grape, like sultana type note in here. Not overly sweet. There's definitely a sweetness there, but it's definitely more of like a rounded, woody, like darker, like maybe like a molassesy sweetness. It's not bright like cane sugar sweetness, it's more those darker notes. Maybe like a touch of cherry hiding in there somewhere. Like a darker, deep red cherry, like a maraschino. Maybe a touch of eucalyptus actually as well. I don't know if it's just because we're coming off the back of the rye, but I didn't get eucalyptus from the rye, I got more of a minty. But I'm definitely getting that here. And definitely you're getting that black pepper spice there as well. Let's go in for a taste of your red breed bourbon. So palate wise, how does this sit on my palate? It is quite rich, it is quite oily, but there's definitely a level of spice and a level of ABV that cuts through the oiliness quite fast, kind of like mid palate, that kind of dissipates a little bit. With that oiliness, you're getting that richer kind of molassesy, butterscotch, maple syrup, those type notes there as well, or golden syrup that I've mentioned before on this channel. And then after that, you get like a bit of like sweeter, like Milky Way type chocolate there, so kind of like a milk flavored chocolate, and that transcends. I'm almost getting like I don't want to say, it doesn't taste like peanuts or peanut butter. It just tastes like a woody peanut shell, you know, the outside of a peanut, right? It kind of tastes like that if you chew on that a little bit, that like salty shell. It kind of has those like lighter peanut wood vibes. And then that kind of transitions more into the spice. You do get a lot of spice with this, nowhere near as much as the rye, but it's definitely there too. Let's drink this a little bit more to see what else we can find. Yeah, and then with some of that sweetness at the beginning, I'm getting more of that like maraschino cherry note. It's not as pronounced as something like a Buffalo Trace, but it's definitely there as well, somewhat subtle. That is really the only fruit that I'm picking up in this, other than like the fig or dates that I was picking up on the nose. And at the back end, as it kind of carries through to that peanut wood shell note, I'm getting like a coffee, it has a little bit of bitterness there, but it's like a pleasant bitterness, like a cup of espresso coffee. It's still very inviting and kind of goes well with the woody notes. So you're not just left with this like dry woody oak note. It kind of combines to like somewhat of a bitter note from coffee, but it actually works quite well. And at this point, the sweetness has gone away, but it leaves just like the rye spice that comes out of this here, and also some of the wood spice kind of just leaves like a bit of a zing on your palate there, and that just keeps going and going. And we're getting a little bit more of a sensation back from my tongue from that bite there. So it is a bit of a bitier whiskey. I would say this drinks spice and heat wise as much as something like a Stag Junior, even though Stag Junior is probably like 7 to 9 proof points or ABV points even higher than this. With that being said, value for money, yeah, you're obviously getting a barrel proof product. It's going to cost you about $50, which on its own takes it straight away into the C category before anything else really. Rich mouthfeel in the beginning, has a lot going on. Again, it does lean a little bit more into like the spicier side. I would say personally, I'm more inclined to maybe drink the Russells, like the Russell's 13 and the single barrel notes, because I just feel that it has more of a sweeter presence there, more fruitier. With that being said, value for money, I'm going to give this a B, which is an excellent score there, but then score out of 100. So this doesn't really align too much with my palate. I really like the 101 because I feel like the spice is just kind of taken down a level or two. And if you're someone who watches this channel, I do really lend more towards like the old Forester range, Buffalo Trace range, because you are getting that sweetness there, which is what I really like from my whiskeys. I like it to be a balanced whiskey, but I don't like spice bombs necessarily. That's not what this is, but it's definitely on the spicier side, like something like a Booker's. So if you like the Jim Beam distillate, I think you'll like these as well. So score out of 100, I'm going to give this an 81. I think that's a pretty damn good score, and I'm trying to be understanding of what this whiskey offers, even though it's not quite up my street. I think 81 is a good score, and then we give that whatever we give, I can't remember at this point. So red breed bourbon and red breed rye, yes, there's a lot of value and a lot of good things to come out of these whiskeys, but for me personally, just missed the mark, just a little bit on my palate there. But again, if you like something spicier, then you will definitely like these whiskeys. So as we say on the channels, we drink through the world's whiskeys one glass at a time. Cheers.